Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to my Games of the Month video log for May 2025. I'm recording this video on Tuesday the 27th of May and I'm going to be talking about all of the games that I've been playing since the start of the month, from the 1st of the May right up through to yesterday. I'm planning for this video log to actually go live on Wednesday 28th of May. Let's see if we can get it done. So as always, I'm going to start off by talking about all of the games that I've played. And my aim this time, this is my challenge. My challenge for this month is to try and keep this video under an hour. I know I said that last month and it was like an hour and a half long, but I will try really hard not to talk too much because I don't have much time to get this video done before UK Games Expo. So anyway, on the 1st of May, I played White Castle twice in the evening. Friends came over and we played White Castle first, just the base game, as a relearning game. We'd all played the game before, but we played it again as a learning game, and then we played with the expansion. So this is on the channel now. If you want to watch it, if you are a Patreon supporter, then you will have had access to the practice game that we played beforehand. But on the public channel, on the live stream tab of YouTube, on the 1st of May, there is a playthrough of White Castle with the Matcha expansion. So what do I think about White Castle? Well, let me preface this by saying I wasn't as big a fan of White Castle as everybody else seemed to. When it came out, everybody was raving about it and saying how great it was. And my first game of it, I really enjoyed it. But then after I played a couple more games, I was like, I'm not sure whether I actually enjoy this. And it's not the fact that you only have 9 turns. I don't mind a game where you only have 9 turns at all. It means you've got to be super efficient. You've really got to plan ahead. But there was a few things about the game that made me think, yeah, I'm not quite sure about this. But anyway, Cosmos Games UK, Thames and Cosmos, sent me a copy of the expansion. And I did want to try it. I wanted to see what it did. So the first thing that I did is I think I played a practice game of White Castle on Board Game Arena, just as a little bit of a refresher. Then we played that game, which was, as I said, we'd all played it before, but it was a kind of relearning game for all of us. Turns out, and this is possibly never ever happened before in the history of my life, everybody else around the table that evening, Stuart, Becky and Emily, knew the game better than me. So I went into that practice game being the person who remembered the game the least. I mean, my excuse is I cover a lot of games, but it was just quite amusing that everybody else was like, no, Paul, this is how it works. And I was like, okay, yeah. But yeah, then we played it with the expansion. So going back to it again, I really enjoyed that game and I really enjoyed the expansion. Now, the question I'm going to get asked is the expansion absolutely essential? And I generally hate those kind of comments because there are so many games which come out which have an expansion and people say the expansion is absolutely essential. You cannot play the base game without it. And I'm like, is that really true? No, it's not. Expansions on the whole do generally make a game better, but there are very few situations where the expansion is absolutely essential. You could play Terraforming Mars without Prelude if you wanted to. Is it necessary? Technically, no. Would I ever not use Prelude? No, I wouldn't. So the Matcha expansion, what it does is it does make the game a bit longer because in White Castle, there are 3 rounds and in each round you have 3 turns. Well, now there are 4 rounds. Yeah, I didn't know if it was 3 rounds with 4 actions or 4 rounds with 3 actions. It's 4 rounds with 3 actions. No, sorry, 3 rounds with 4 actions. So there's an extra area with extra dice and you will be taking 4 turns per round instead of 3, and it adds an extra section to it. Now, I did like it with the expansion, and I would always choose to play with the expansion as long as everybody I played with has played the base game, because it does mix things up a bit and it does provide a little bit more variety in a game with a massive variable setup. What it does do is it actually adds the expansion quite nicely because there are a few areas in the new expansion that actually work exactly the same as the original. So that's good because you're learning it and you're like, okay, this isn't completely new. That's the same as before. This isn't completely new. This works in the same way. There's a couple of areas which do work different. And yeah, I enjoyed it. So White Castle is staying in my collection. The Matcha box, I mean, for those people who know this game and know Red Cathedral, you will know that the box is absolutely chock full. You need to go on a 3-day training course on how to repack that game into the box. There is no space for anything else. So the expansion does not fit in the original box. That means I have on my shelf over there Red Cathedral and a separate Red Cathedral expansion box, and White Castle and a separate White Castle expansion box. That's just because they make their games in the right size boxes rather than boxes that are too big. So yes, White Castle, thumbs up for me. White Castle with the expansion, thumbs up for me. On the 2nd of May, I did a solo playthrough of the Anarchy. Now, I think I talked about the Anarchy last month. I think I did. I can't quite remember now. I know last month was a bit weird because I actually ended up recording it something like on the 5th of May. So all of these games that I'm talking about right now, I'd actually played before recording the last video log. That's why I'm getting even more confused now. So I think I talked about the Anarchy in last month's video log. But on the 2nd of May, I did a solo playthrough. And this is on the channel now. If you want to see it, this is a live playthrough of me playing through a solo game of the Anarchy. And I made a decision. Well, I asked other people's opinion, but I decided to play the campaign. So the Anarchy has a solo campaign that comes with the game. There is a solo mode. You can just play the solo mode. And that was what I was originally going to do. But I asked a few people, including the designer, and they said, go for it. Just start with the campaign. So I did. And the campaign basically says, play the solo game, but with these tweaks. And every particular scenario of the campaign has its own tweaks. Now, if you watched last month's video log, you will know that I am a fan of the Anarchy. And full disclosure here, I was paid by Garfield Games to produce the official how to play video for the game. So just getting that out there. But I really do like the game. I like the way it plays. The downsides are, and this is not a downside for me, but it is a downside for some people, it is a solo game. Even if you're playing this multiplayer, you are not interacting with the other players really at all. There is a little draft at the start of the round where you will take a card, but other than that, you are each playing your own solo game. And you're not really interacting with the other players. You're just trying to do the best you can and score your points. So I don't mind that in games at all. And the Anarchy solo, yeah, I really enjoyed the experience of it. There's one part of the game which kind of is a little bit too random for my personal tastes, but it's a small part of the game, and it's where you're flipping over cards and trying to get the right numbers to fill in the boxes. Sometimes you can get lucky, sometimes you can not get lucky. That's just how it is, but the rest of the game I really enjoy. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing a solo playthrough of the Anarchy, which was not a sponsored playthrough video, I did it because my Patreon supporters voted on it, and I wanted to do it myself, that's on the channel from the 2nd of May. And the evening of the 2nd May was another playthrough, which again wasn't sponsored. I think I actually had some paid work booked in for that day, but then something changed at last minute and we didn't do it. So we got S.E.T.I back to the table. Now, this is that was probably my 3rd, maybe even 4th play of S.E.T.I. Now, S.E.T.I from Czech Games Edition was one of the hottest games of last year. And I was a little nervous about jumping on the bandwagon with everybody else because I hadn't played it enough. Now, I've got a very good relationship with Czech Games Edition. I've not done any paid content for S.E.T.I whatsoever. I wasn't involved in the development of the game. I don't work on their rulebooks anymore. So, yeah, I've got no ties to this game whatsoever. S.E.T.I might be the best game of last year. Now, I know what you're saying. Civolution was my favourite game of last year. And Civolution was my favourite game of last year, and to be honest, probably still is my favourite game of last year. But having played S.E.T.I a number of times now, I love it. I absolutely love it, and on reflection, I think it might be the better game. So yeah, there's different scales here. There's what do I think, standing back, subjectively or objectively, what do I think was the best game of last year? I think I'm going to go with S.E.T.I. Which do I enjoy playing the most? Civolution, but only just. S.E.T.I is really good. So yes, loved that play. That is on the channel now if you want to see it. And I was doing a giveaway. The giveaway is finished. So if you do go and watch that video and you start saying, oh, Paul's doing a giveaway for a copy of the game. He's not. The giveaway has finished. I did the draw last night and the winner has been contacted. Congratulations, Dan. Dan is going to get a copy of S.E.T.I donated by Czech Games Edition. Okay, we're only up to May the 3rd. Don't worry, I didn't play games every day in May. I wish. Right, so on the 3rd, I had a games day. Vicky was out for the day, so I decided I was going to have a day at home playing as many games as I could. And I had an absolute blast. Now, some of these games were live streamed on the public channel. Some of them were Patreon only. Let's talk about the ones which were public first, And these were voted on by Patreon supporters. What I did is I put a poll up on my Patreon page about a week or so before, and I said, here's 20 different games, vote on them, and I will play the 2 that get the most votes. And the 2 that got the most votes were Terraforming Mars and Marrakesh. So, Terraforming Mars, using the new solo Automa designed by David Turksey and Nick Shaw. I've heard lots of good things about it. I am, let's just say, not a fan of the original solo game for Terraforming Mars, even though Terraforming Mars is absolutely a top 20 game for me and possibly even top 10. I didn't like the original solo mode at all. I'd heard lots of good things about this new solo mode. So on that video, if you want to watch it, it's on my channel live from the 3rd of May. I learn how to play the solo mode on camera and then play it. So it's a little rough. It's not a sponsored video, but I actually went through the process of getting it out, setting it up, learning the game, and then playing through. And thank you very much to Nick for being in the chat. And I think David might have been there as well, and to other people who were watching along and kept me honest. Well, I've already told you what I think about Terraforming Mars. What do I think about this solo mode? Bearing in mind, full disclosure here, I'm friends with David, I'm friends with Nick, but I wasn't paid any money for this. I have no personal or professional ties to the publisher or the company. Although, I will say they did send me a free copy of the game, because I did say I was going to cover it on the channel. I think they sent it me last October. I need to go back to them and say, really sorry, there was a bit of a delay, but I have now covered it on the channel. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Really, really good. Now, bearing in mind that I am not generally the biggest fan of David Turksey's solo modes, because generally speaking, they do an extremely good job at simulating another player, but that often for me takes me well outside of my comfort level that I'm happy with. In this game, it was fine. Now, it was 4 weeks ago when I played this, from then to recording this video, so I can't remember it exactly, but I do remember thoroughly enjoying the game and not having any huge issues with either the rules or any complications or anything like that. One thing that I think they've done an extremely good job with is they have done this solo mode so that you can use it with any expansion. There's I mean, this must have taken them ages. David and Nick have done a fantastic job with it. You can play against rival corporations as well. I didn't do that. I played the version where I wasn't playing against an actual rival corporation, but they've got that in, and there's different AI modes for what they will do in particular situations. And yeah, for me, who normally doesn't like that level of complexity, it was fine. So yes, Terraforming Mars solo. Oh gosh, if I had time this afternoon, I would be playing it again. I really want to now. Next up is another solo playthrough, which was live on the channel on the 3rd of May. This was Marrakesh, another solo mode from David Turksey, and Marrakesh is my favourite game from the Stefan Feld City Collection. It's one of my favourite Stefan Feld games, certainly in my top 5, probably in my top 3, maybe even in my top 2. I don't know, I really like Marrakesh, and full disclosure here, I was commissioned by Queen Games to do the official how to play video for Marrakesh, but that was it. I haven't had any other involvement in it since then. And this was a solo playthrough. The solo mode is in the expansion, so you do need the Nomads and Camels expansion to play the solo mode. And there's actually 2 solo modes included. There is a full-on solo mode, which is complex AI, lots of decisions and things like that. I didn't play that. That, looking at it and being advised by people who know me, said, Paul, that's probably a little bit outside of your comfort zone. I played the simplified Pasha bot, which I've had it on good authority, was actually put in there especially for me, because David knows that I don't like complicated solo modes. He knows that I like Marrakesh as a game, so he worked with the other developers, Chuck, John and Gary. They were involved in it as well, and thank you very much for making a Paul-friendly solo mode for Marrakesh. Again, if you want to see it played, that's on the channel now. You can go and do that. And although I said you need the expansion to be able to play the solo mode, I don't know if you need the expansion to play the simplified solo mode. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think if you had the rules for playing the simplified solo mode, I don't think you need any additional components. I think. Not 100% sure, but I think that's right. So yes, loved it. I mean, I loved it. It's very difficult, a little bit like the Terraforming Mars. Well, actually, no. I'm going to correct myself there. Not like Terraforming Mars. It's difficult for me to separate that solo playthrough of Marrakesh and how much I enjoyed it into how much I enjoyed it because I was enjoying the solo mode and how much I enjoyed it because I was just playing Marrakesh. because Marrakesh is a fantastic game and I love playing it. But I will tell you that the solo mode was good. The simplified solo mode, which kind of, I mean, for me, it did simulate another player. It was adding random caches into the tower and it was taking caches. But, like is very, it's with all of David's games, you do have an idea of what the bot is going to do. And the way that it works is at the start of the game, you take one cache of each of the 12 colours, you put them in a line and you go, right, that is the bot's priority list. So you know which colours it's going to favour more than others. Now what that means is when you are taking caches that are fallen out of the tower, you can actually work it out. And this is a very common thing with a lot of David's solo modes, is he wants to give the player knowledge about what the AI might do next. And in this one, you have that perfect knowledge because you look at that row and you say, okay, well, there's yellow ones in there. He's going to take yellow ones. The bot is going to take the yellow ones if I don't. And if I don't want the yellow ones, if I want the green and the blue, that's fine. Because if I take the green, I know he's going to take the yellow and then I can take the blue. I actually like that. Whereas if you're playing with another player, they might mess that up and they might say, oh no, I'm going to take the blue ones. And you're like, oh, yeah. So yeah, really enjoyed that solo playthrough of Marrakesh. And yeah, I love Marrakesh as a game. Also that day, and these were Patreon only videos, so if you were one of my Patreon supporters, you would have received links to these. I did a solo playthrough of Concordia Digital. The Concordia Digital version is fantastic. The solo mode is very good in it, and I played that. In fact, no, I didn't play the solo mode. The solo mode that came out with Concordia Solitaria a few years ago, I think that is actually in the game. I think that's in the digital version of the game. I didn't use that. I just played another game against two other AIs. And since then, I've actually, that one was live streamed. So my Patreon supporters had access to watch that and I didn't win. But since then, I've actually gone back and I've played 2 or 3 more games of Concordia using the digital adaptation on Steam. And I haven't won a single game. Sometimes I'm not even close. So clearly, I'm not very good at Concordia, and I kind of want to keep playing the digital version until I get better at it. Because getting beaten by the hard AIs, I don't mind, but it's the kind of game that I think I want to be better at. So yeah, I need to go back to that and play a few more games of it. Let me know if you've got the Concordia digital app on Steam. Let me know if you've managed to beat the hard AIs, because I can't. Also that day, I went back to Mythwind. So let's talk about Mythwind. And full disclosure here, I was commissioned by Open Owl Studios to produce a tutorial and playthrough of Mythwind, which is on the channel from about 2 years ago. Yeah, I think about 2 years ago. Me, Becky and Emily, we did a tutorial and playthrough video where the 3 of us sat down one evening, I think it was a Friday evening or a Wednesday, whenever, and we played through 1 season of the game to give you an idea. Since then, I've had a lot of mixed thoughts on Mythwind. I don't know how honest to be about this. I mean, let's be as honest as I can. So first of all, I have a lot of respect for Brendan as a designer, who is one of the co-designers of Mythwind. Brendan kind of runs Open Owl Studios. And he co-designed Mythwind with Nathan. But one thing that I like about Brendan, and I like about Open Owl Studios, is they are breaking the mold a bit. They are doing different games. And Mythwind, whether you like it or not, you have to give it the credit for doing something different. Now, if you don't know Mythwind, I'll let you know what it is. This is a cozy game with no bad guys, no time limit, no way to lose, and you just play the game. It is essentially trying to recreate the experience of one of those nice computer games where you live in a village and you plant your crops and you grow your crops and you sell them at the market and you make some money and you improve your skills, and then you plant some more crops and then you might meet some sprites in the forest and you might have a little encounter, and you just keep playing and playing. This game has no end. This game has a system where you will build up and you will improve whatever it is that you're improving, but you could actually play this game forever. Now, realistically, you're not going to do that. You're going to up your character, you're going to increase the skills, you're going to do all of the stuff, and when you get to the point where you go, right, I've done everything, you're probably not going to want to carry on playing, but you could. There is no time pressure. There is no ending. There is no dragons that are going to appear and attack your castle or anything like that. And there are multiple different characters you can play. You can play the farmer, you can play the crafter, you can play the ranger, you can play the innkeeper. The innkeeper was the expansion character. The merchant, that was it. And they've done these in such a way that every character that you play plays in a very different way. And each has its own little mini games that it's using. So, I respect them for doing something different. They did a really good job with the production quality of the game. A few little niggly issues that they've fixed in the reprint, but there were unfortunately issues. And now the 1.0 version of the game, there were issues. There were some fairly big errors. One of the characters was completely and utterly broken. There was a lot of things that were very, very unclear in the rulebook. Even though they'd done an overall good job with the rulebooks and the production and everything else, there were a few parts of the rulebooks which were extremely confusing to the point where most people were playing it wrong. There were some icons that just weren't explained at all, and you had to kind of interpret them or flip between pages to try and work out what a particular icon meant. Anyway, there were issues with it, and the issues were so much that I decided I'm going to put this game on the shelf, because they announced that they were going to be doing a 1.1 or 1.5 version of the game at some point later on where they would fix all of those issues. And I said, right, that's great. I'm going to put this game away. Since I did that, I've been thinking so many times of going back to Mythwind, because it is such a different game, and it was an enjoyable experience of playing it, as long as you get into the mindset of this is a very, very different game. This is more of a cozy experience rather than an actual game itself. But because of the issues, I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, new version of Mythwind arrived, and I thought, right, I'm going to go back to it. And I did. So that was a live playthrough of me playing through the Mythwind Season 1 as the farmer with the new 1.5 version of the rules. And yes, I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed it more because they fixed the issues. And those issues that I had, they were fixed, which means I could go into it and I could start playing. And I actually felt more relaxed because I wasn't getting stressed out by the fact that things were wrong and there was errata here and there. Now, there's still a couple of little bits of errata, but that's fine. You get that in a lot of games. I want to go back to Mythwind. I want to go back to it again. I haven't had time to go back to it, but I do want to go back to it because it was just enjoyable. Right, okay. The 4th of May. Guess what happened on the 4th of May? The same thing that happens every year on the 4th of May, or has happened for the last few years, Star Wars Day. So this time, instead of just Rick coming over, we actually invited a few other people over as well, and we had about 8 or 9 people in the house, and we played Star Wars games all day. It started off in the morning, and this is live streamed. This is on the channel if you want to watch it. It was a 4-player game of Star Wars Rebellion. Now, I say a 4-player game. We'd actually advertised it as a 4-player game, and we were about to go live. We were literally 5 minutes before we were about to go live, and me and Rick are setting the game up, and Malcolm and Alex are here. Rick was playing the Rebels with Malcolm. I was playing the Imperials with Alex, and we were setting the game up. Now, me and Rick have played this game 2 or 3 times before, and we've only ever played the 2-player version, and we suddenly went, oh, wait a minute, 4-player rules. There are different rules for when you're playing it as a 4-player game. We've not read any of these. So we went, okay, I'll tell you what, let's not do the actual 4-player game. Let's just do the 2-player game, but with 2 people on each side. And it worked brilliantly. Now, it worked brilliantly for us. I get that that won't work well for some people because you might feel that one person is taking over or whatever. For us, with Malcolm and Alex not having played the game before, and I'm used to playing solo games with another person where we sit down and we talk about what we're going to do and we work things out together, it was absolutely fine. It was an amazing game, right? So Star Wars Rebellion is a game which I do not own. Rick has it. I don't own it myself. It might be in my top 10 games. Now, I say that about a lot of games, but I cannot stress how good Star Wars Rebellion is. And many of you might be shouting at the camera saying, yes, Paul, we know it's very good. Everybody's been saying for years how it's very good. You are well late to the party. And I know I am well late to the party. It's exactly the same with the War of the Ring, the board game. It is generally regarded as one of the best games ever designed. Star Wars Rebellion is up there as well. It was fantastic. Do want to play it again. Chances are probably won't before Star Wars Day next year. Anyway, Star Wars Rebellion, 4 players, but playing the 2-player game. That is on the channel. I won't spoil to tell you how it worked out, but we had an epic game Malcolm and Alex loved it. Me and Rick loved it. It was just a fantastic start to the day. So in the afternoon, this was live streamed to Patreon, so this isn't on the public channel. I had a couple of games of the Star Wars LCG, the old Fantasy Flight Games LCG, which I don't actually physically own. So this is one reason why I did it as a Patreon-only stream. I don't own the physical game, and I didn't want to fork out £125 to buy a second-hand copy from Germany, which was, I think, the only copy that I could find. So there is a website which has all of the card images, and I basically spent 2 weeks downloading those card images, resizing them, tweaking them in Photoshop, printing them all out, cutting them all out, and putting them into sleeves. And I've made up an entire starter pack. And then I looked at it and went, maybe I should have just bought that one for £125 from Germany, because it took me absolutely ages to do, but I did it. And I loved it. Now, I remember playing this game when it first came out. When the game first came out, which I think was 2012, I don't know. It came out, I remember a friend of mine got the starter set, and we played a couple of games of it, and I went, this is great. And that was it. And then forgot all about it. Well, I didn't forget all about it. I always remember playing it and thinking, oh, yeah, I remember that. But then when I was planning on what am I going to do for Star Wars Day, I thought, oh, this is going to be my new project for the week, is to get the card images, print them all out, and make my own version of the game. And that's what I did. And yeah, I really like the game. I think it is a very, very good game. And I was playing that upstairs while Rick was downstairs playing Star Wars Unlimited. Also in the morning, while we were playing Rebellion, there was a group downstairs playing Star Wars Imperial Assault. So thank you very much, Rick, for bringing round Rebellion and Imperial Assault. In the evening, everybody else had gone home. Rob stayed, and we played Star Wars Outer Rim. Now, I've said how good Rebellion is, and Rebellion is probably the best Star Wars game there is. But Star Wars Outer Rim is one of my favourite games of all time. Yes, it's random. Yes, it's got dice rolls. Yes, it's got all of that. I adore Star Wars Outer Rim. I just cannot stress how good the game is for me. And that actually surprises a lot of people, because they know the games that I like, and they go, well, hang on a minute, Paul. You're rolling dice for combat and skill checks and all of this lot. Doesn't matter. With Star Wars Outer Rim, the way that the game plays, I have loved every single game that I've played of it, apart from maybe one solo game where I got confused by how the AI did things. Other than that, as a multiplayer game, it's fantastic. Now, going back to what I said earlier on about the people who use the terms essential for expansions. Star Wars Outer Rim does have an expansion called Unfinished Business, which is a very apt name for the expansion, because that expansion should have really come out the year afterwards, but I don't know why it didn't. I don't know if it was a licensing thing, or the game wasn't as popular, or whatever. But after Star Wars Outer Rim came out, everybody was like, where's the expansion? And then like a few years later, they released it and they called it Unfinished Business. And we're like, yeah, I can see what you did there. It was kind of unfinished. But although the expansion makes the game better, it's not essential. And this is what I want to touch on just for a minute. This is my hot topic for this video log, is when people say that an expansion is essential for the game. Now, I have played probably about 10 to 15 games of Star Wars Outer Rim before the expansion came out. And it was great. And I loved it. And if the expansion never came out, I would still continue to play Star Wars Outer Rim, and it would still be a brilliant game. The expansion makes it better. Is it essential? No. Essential to me means you cannot play the game without it. Not, it makes the game better. So that's where I'm coming from with this. Star Wars Outer Rim is a very, very, very good game, made even better with the expansion. Exactly the same as Terraforming Mars, an extremely good game, but it's much, much better with Prelude. Ark Nova, brilliant game, better with the Sea Creature Aquarium, what's it called? Anyway, the expansion, you know what I mean. So yeah, I don't think Star Wars Outer Rim, the expansion, is essential, but I would never not use it because I have it. What I'm saying is, if you can get a copy of Star Wars Outer Rim, but you cannot get hold of the expansion, it's still worth it, in my opinion. Okay, speaking of great games, played Agemonia twice in May. We played it on the 5th and we played it on the 18th. The 5th was very, very disappointing. The reason why our playthrough on the 5th was very disappointing is because we'd arranged we were going to start early. We were going to start an hour early, and we were going to play 2 scenarios. And that's because we were currently level 2, and we had 2 scenarios left before we hit level 3. And it was very exciting, and we thought, right, we're going to meet up an hour early, we're going to get everything done, and we're going to play 2 scenarios, and we're going to hit level 3, and it's going to be big celebrations time. It's going to be great. And the first scenario we did took us about 3.5 hours, and we were like, we're not going to get a second one done today. No, we're not. That was it. It was disappointing because we didn't get to level 3. As for the game itself, wow. It was another one, and I am probably going to sound like a broken record here. But that was deliberate, not a video editing mistake. I was trying to be funny. Agemonia is amazing. And we've played 2 scenarios this month. We played on the 5th, and then we played again on the 18th, when we did then get to level 3. And yet again, both scenarios were fantastic. Both of them were really interesting. Both of them felt different from everything else that we've played. And the game is just... I didn't think it could get any better. And it just still seems to be getting better. Now, it can't continue to get better, but I think we've reached the point now where we've all realised, I realised it a long time ago, but I think the others are now realising it, that this is an amazing game. This is a brilliant experience. So, yeah, Agemonia, I won't bang on about it too much because I've talked about it every month, but it is just continuing to be very, very good. Also, other games that I've played twice in the month, Primal the Awakening, our campaign continued in May. We played twice. We played on the 6th and on the 20th. And again, Primal is absolutely fantastic. And we played 2 games of it. The first battle was against Haidar. Was it against Haidar? Yes, it was against Haidar in the forest, the big poisonous, lizardy, jungly creature thing. And then last week on the 20th, we played against Korra 1, who's a massive crab on the beach and everything else. We didn't do so well. So our egos took a little bit of a bruising because our first scenario that we played, the prologue against Vyraxen, we killed it in like 3 rounds. The video was like an hour long, and we're like, oh, well, that was a bit easy, wasn't it? To be fair, it's the prologue. It's supposed to be easier. We're all very experienced players. We absolutely nailed it. We knew what we were doing. The second scenario, we fought against Pazes. We were expecting a tougher fight. We absolutely nailed it. The video was like an hour and a quarter long. We defeated him. We had no problems whatsoever. And we thought, yeah, it's probably going to get harder. It got harder. Now, what we're doing is we are playing through the entire campaign of Primal the Awakening. It's going to be 12 sessions long in total, and that's because we're not playing with the rules that you're supposed to play. The rules of Primal are that if you don't manage to defeat a boss, you are supposed to replay that scenario until you defeat the boss. Now, that is part of the game, and it's a good part of the game because the way that the mechanisms work of the game is that you need to learn the behaviours of the individual bosses. And the more you play against a particular boss, the more you'll learn their behaviour, you'll be able to adapt your strategies to that behaviour, and you'll have a better chance of winning. However, we don't have time to replay the scenarios because otherwise our campaign is going to be like a 1.5 years long. So we're actually missing out on that part of the game, and what we're doing is we're just playing it, and then whether we actually succeeded or not, we're moving on to the next one. But we are keeping score. So currently we're 2 for 2. We've beaten the first 2 and we've failed against the last 2, but we are going to be fighting a new boss soon. And if you're interested, and I mention this every month, I'm doing a giveaway for an entire copy of Primal the Awakening. And what you need to do is to enter, you need to go to one of the Primal videos, probably the last one, and find out how to enter. Because essentially, each time we do a video, there is a contest, and you need to enter the contest between when a video goes live and before the next one is. And the more contests you enter, the more chance you have of winning. I am doing one giveaway. At the very end, the winner will be decided just before our final session, which is against the Awakened. It's like session 12, it's going to be the final boss. And yeah, we're going to be drawing the winner just before that, and we'll be announcing it at that point. Okay, moving on. Next on my list is the 9th, which is Trismegistus. So Trismegistus is actually live on Kickstarter or GameFound, I can't remember which one, I get confused. It's Board and Dice's second edition of Trismegistus. They've not called it second edition, they've actually called it the new edition, and I'm involved with this game professionally. So, first of all, I am helping them a tiny bit with the rulebook. So tiny, it's probably not worth mentioning, but I already have. Second, I've done a tutorial and playthrough video for the game, which was sponsored by Board and Dice. So if you want to see a tutorial and playthrough of the new version of Trismegistus to see how it compares to the old one, or if you're just interested in it, that's on the channel now from the 9th of May. And also, I am going to be working for Board and Dice at UK Games Expo this weekend. I'm going to be demoing Trismegistus to hordes of people. I'm only going to be there in the mornings. So between 9 and 12:30 or 1 o'clock, I think, I'm going to be demoing Trismegistus each day at the Board and Dice booth at UK Games Expo. So that said, let's talk about the game itself. But first, let's go back to the original version of Trismegistus. And I won't say everything that I've said about it before, but I wasn't a fan. The rulebook was the worst rulebook that I read that year. The graphic design was the worst graphic design that I'd seen that year. There was a good game in there, but it was hidden behind a bad rulebook and bad graphic design. Some people don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. That stopped me wanting to play it anymore. I played it 3 times. Each time was a struggle to understand what was going on, teach it to other people, and there were some fiddly parts of the rules. The new version fixes all of that. Now, I can't comment on what the final rulebook is going to be like because they haven't done the final rulebook yet. The version of the rules that I was working to was very much a rough draft, but the graphic design has had a massive overhaul. I know it's not to everybody's liking. I personally like it. I think the art style looks nice, but for me, the iconography was clear, very, very clear, and we were able to understand what was going on. The fiddly follow actions have gone, which was good. I didn't like them anyway. They interrupted the game flow for me. And heavy Euro gamers might not like this, but they have made the game less tight. There are now things that you can do on your turn. Every round you've got a battery. It just gives you other ways to be able to get the resources that you need. The previous version, everything was so tight, and you're like, okay, so in order to do this experiment, I need some refined copper. How do I get refined copper? Well, actually, what I need to do is I need to get some tin, unrefined tin, and then I need to transmute the unrefined tin to make refined copper. Oh, and it was a lot of planning, and I know a lot of people that love the original game, but if you got one thing slightly wrong, you were screwed. Now, that's the same in the new version of the game, and if you want to watch a player get something slightly wrong and be completely screwed, you will see that. I just need to go downstairs because the dinosaurs have arrived. I'll be back in a minute. Right, I'm back. The dinosaurs have arrived. Where were we? We were talking about Trismegistus, and yes, I was saying that it is a game where you still need to plan very carefully, and if you do mess something up, then you can still get yourself into trouble, but there are more ways to get out of that than there was before. Other than that, the game is very similar to a lot of Board and Dice's medium to heavy Euros. It's got a lot of the similar... It's a completely different game, completely different rules, but it just kind of feels like a lot of their other games, and I don't mean that in a negative way. What I mean is, if you like Board and Dice's medium to heavy Euro games, then you're probably going to like this one. But yeah, check that out. The crowdfunding campaign is running right now, and if you're interested, go and back it. Next up, 15th and the 16th of May, I played Assyria 2nd Edition. Oh, I've played so many good games this month. So, Assyria 2nd Edition, I did a live playthrough of this on the 16th of May. That is on the channel now if you want to watch it. It was sponsored by Garfield Games, so please bear that in mind while I tell you how good Assyria is. But a little bit of a background. The original version of Assyria is one of my favourite games, if not my favourite game that came out that year. I absolutely loved it. Emmanuel Onella, I think, has done some fantastic games over the years. Ultramare, Il Principe, Assyria, Hermagor, all great games that a lot of people might not have heard of. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been saying how Assyria was such a good game, and I've been promising that at some point I am going to cover it on the channel in part of my Cult of the Old series that I haven't done anything with for 9 months. But then I found out that Garfield Games have been in contact with Emmanuel and have been working on a 2nd edition of Assyria. Well, yeah, I needed to lie down because that that excited me a lot. I've got a great relationship with Garfield Games. I like what they do. I like the way that they run their company. And I just thought this is going to be fantastic. The main reason I was excited is because they are going to put the game of Assyria back on the map. And it's going to open what is a very good game to a new audience. So, if you want to see more, there is a playthrough of it on the 16th. Me, Mark and Sally, we played it. One thing I will tell you though, I was expecting that game to be 90 minutes long. We were, 2.25 hours? And that is because that was one of the most intense games that I have had. Not just of Assyria, but of anything. Now, what had happened is the night before, on the 15th, I'd gone round and me, Mark and Sally, we'd played a practice game. And to be fair, I wiped the floor with them because I knew what I was doing. I'd played the original game enough that I'd remembered some of the strategies. And whilst I tried to help them out and not just leave them in the dark and give them some pointers, it was their first game and they didn't play as optimally as me. However, they learned quick. And Sally actually said to me when she came round on the Friday, she said, I've been thinking about this game non-stop since our game last night. And they both turned up with this driving desire to play better than they did the night before. So actually, it worked quite well, the fact that they had a terrible game the night before and went, right, we can do better than this, come on. And wow, what a game it was. I can't even remember who won. All I know is I felt the tension of, I'm going to have to play really, really well here. I think Mark won. Yeah, Mark won. In order to do well, because they're not going to pull any punches in this game. Now, Assyria, 2nd edition, is a better version of the older game Assyria, but it's a classic Euro game which has really good player interaction, not direct conflict like beating each other up, but the bidding system is really clever and works really well. The way that the placement of the huts on the board, it's really clever. I love the whole flow of the game. The flow of the game is that you are, over 3 rounds, you're placing these huts on the board, which represent the settlements, and you place them on spaces that have food costs. And then later on in the round, you are going to need to pay those food costs. So in round 1, that's fine. You put a few huts down, you feed your people, everybody's good. Next round, you put some more huts down and you're like, oh, I've now got all of these people to feed as well as those people. Well, I can just about get enough food. And then round 3, you're like, okay, so I'm putting 3 more huts down. Right, well, I can't feed all of these. Which ones are going to survive and which ones are going to die? And that's the clever bit of the game, is you can't be expected to constantly be able to feed all of your people every turn. And it's where you place them, what you get from them, whether you put them on the river to get camels or you put them off the river to get points and potentially building ziggurats. But then what happens is there's a flood and everything on the river goes. So everything that you've built off the river stays, but everything on the river, which is the valuable stuff, that goes. And you're not actually building floating huts. It just means you're building a settlement next to the river. And then you play another 3 rounds where the same thing happens. But over the whole course of the game, you are building the ziggurats. And the ziggurats will stay. And they will gradually produce points for you. So it actually feels quite thematic as far as a Euro game goes, in the fact that the people grow, but the more they grow, the harder it is to feed them. So some of them might starve and die off. And then there's a flood, and that's going to wreck everything that's on the settlements. But then they go again, and then gradually over the course of the game, and at the end of the game, there's another feeding phase, and it kind of represents, right, this civilization is dying off now. It just can't cope with it. But yeah, there are a number of tweaks to the rules, a lot, and I wasn't fully aware of how many tweaks they had made until I got the rule books out for both editions and went, oh yeah, actually there is quite a lot of changes. So this is not just a lick of paint 2nd edition. This is a fully developed new version, and I believe Tom Heath's going to be doing a solo playthrough. Apologies, Tom, if you haven't done a solo playthrough, but go and check out Tom's video on it as well, because Tom always does great playthroughs. So Tom would have done either a 2-player game with him and Marty, or he would have done a solo playthrough. I don't know which. But anyway, Assyria 2nd edition, it's not live yet. The campaign is not live. It's going live very soon. I think sometime in early June. So a big thank you to Garfield Games for allowing me to release my video early. The downside of that is it might have been a little bit too early. So keep an eye out for that campaign. It will be going live sometime early in June. Also, on the 15th of May, after we'd played Assyria 2nd Edition. We had about 20 minutes left before the club closed, and we played one game of the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. Either one game or two games. I can't remember. I think we played two games. I think we played one scenario. Might have been scenario 10, where you're in Rivendell, and we failed the first time, so then we played it again. So yeah, Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, always good. Managed to get a quick game of that in. And as well as Assyria, on the 16th, in the afternoon, Chris came over in the afternoon and we did a bonus Patreon-only stream where I actually got out about 12 games, I think. If you're a Patreon supporter, you would have been sent a link to this. But Chris came over in the afternoon and I got out on the table about 12 two-player games. And between us, and with some help from the audience, we decided what we were going to play. And we were going to play as many games as we could in the 2.5 hours that we had. We played one game, and that was Monumental Duel. So I don't think... Nope, I haven't. I haven't actually done a public playthrough of this game yet. I've done a private one with Chris on that day, and I've played it 2 or 3 times outside of streaming it on the channel. So yeah, at some point, I will do a public stream of this game because the publisher sent me all 3 games. There are 3 games in the Monumental Duel series. Each one contains 3 different civilizations, and you play any 2 civilizations. I believe that you can chop and change, but I've never done that. I've only ever picked one box and then played 2 of the different civilizations from that box. But I really like Monumental Duel. It's not a short game. It should probably be about 1.25 hours to 1.5 hours, but I really like the way that it works, and I like the flow of the game. I'm not going to say it's one of my favourite games. I've played a lot of amazingly fantastic games this month. It was enjoyable. I think the one downside of that game is that, again, because I was experienced at the game, I was playing a lot better. And it's very much, there's a bit of an engine building element to this game. So if one player gets their engine built early on, then the other player is like, okay, you're quite far behind the curve now. And I think that's what happened in our games. Chris played, okay, but it was his first game of it. And at the point where I felt, right, we're done now, the game has run its course, I'm ready for it to end, it was like, okay, so we can't refill the display, what do we do? Okay, we finish that round and then play one more round, and I'm like, I don't want one more round. So for me, the game went on a little bit longer than I would have liked, and I don't know how much of that was because I was just so far ahead that I was obviously going to win. Was I kind of thinking we should just wrap things up now? I don't know. But yeah, I like the game, just not as much as some of the other ones that I have covered on this channel in the month. And at this point, I'm going to mention something that I'd completely forgotten about, but I'm going to mention it now. If you are one of my Patreon supporters, then you will get access to a bonus video log that I will be recording tomorrow, where I will be going through all of these games that I talk about in this video log, and I'll be rating them. So I'll be using the Pub Meeple ranking system, and it is a bonus extra vlog just for you as a thank you to my Patreon supporters. So if you are a Patreon supporter, you will be getting a message at some point, either tomorrow or Thursday morning, with that bonus vlog where I will rank all of the games that I talk about right now. But let's move on to the next 2-player card game. This is Star Trek Captain's Chair, which has finally, after months of the game being lost in Sector 31, has arrived in the UK. And people in the UK are now actually starting to get their pre-orders. So to celebrate this, I called Stuart and I got him over and we played it on a Wednesday afternoon. Now, full disclosure here, I have done a lot of paid work for WizKids over the past few years, and I am professionally involved in Captain's Chair. I helped out a bit with the rulebook, and I have done 3 sponsored playthrough videos on the game, covering the various game modes. That video, which is live on the channel if you want to watch it from the 21st of May, was not sponsored. I did it because I wanted to do it. I love the game. I hadn't played it for a couple of months, and Stuart loves the game as well, so I contacted him, he came over, and we sat and we played it. So that was a 2-player, very, very brutal game. Sealer versus Cisco. There was a lot of player interaction in that game, and it was fantastic. And I did want to give a special shout out to somebody who has left me a comment on the Board Game Geek video that I did, the one specifically of that playthrough, who has basically listed all of the errors that I made in great detail. Some people won't like that. I personally know a number of content creators who, when people leave them comments, with a list of mistakes that they've made, they get annoyed by it. They get angry about it. They go, look, it's just a playthrough video. Of course we're going to make mistakes. I don't care. I'm the opposite, right? If I make a mistake in a playthrough video, I want somebody in detail to tell me what mistakes I make, because my entire way that I live my life is that I don't want to make mistakes. And if I do make a mistake, I want somebody to tell me what that mistake is so I don't make that mistake again. So yes, big shout out. And if you're interested, head on over to Board Game Geek, look at that video on there, and he's listed out all of the errors that I made in that video. And I've read through them all and I've gone, yep, you're absolutely right. I did make those mistakes. The reason why I made those mistakes is I was getting tired, I was getting a headache, I was a bit rushed for time, I was super excited about playing the game again and got carried away with myself, and I just missed a number of things that I did wrong. So yeah, thank you very much for pointing them out. I really do appreciate that. And I don't mean that sarcastically. That could easily have been taken as me being sarcastic. I'm being honest. Next up, on the 23rd, is a playthrough of Yinzi Ming. Now, I played it twice that day. We had a practice game in the afternoon, which we didn't finish, but that was to learn the game, and then we did a live playthrough in the evening. So, Yinzi Ming, it's another one. This is a second edition of an older game called Yinzi, originally published by Spielworks, but what's happened is Fantasy Games have got the license to basically do a new version of the game, and this was a sponsored video. So I've been speaking with Florian, who runs Fantasy Games, and he wanted me to do a video on this game, and I wasn't able to do a video on it because I didn't have time for it in the schedule. And that was because the campaign for this game was due to go live around the start of May. And I wanted to cover the game because it did look nice. It's designed by Roller and Costa, and I'm friends with Costa, and they do really good games, and I really wanted to cover this game. But he needed the video done by the start of May. And I said, I'm not going to be able to do that. He also wanted me to help out with the rulebook. So I did. So I did some rulebook consultancy for this game, like at the end of April. And I thought, oh, this game looks really good. Now, the rulebook at the time was not good. The rulebook needed a lot of work. And since then, they've really improved the rulebook. Miguel has completely rewritten it from scratch. The new rulebook is a lot better. But I thought, it's a real shame I'm not going to get a chance to do a video on this game because it does look really good. Anyway, a week or so passed and I noticed that the crowdfunding campaign had not gone live. So I went back to Florian and I said, what's happening with the game? He said, oh yeah, we've had to delay it because of, tariffs and various other reasons. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting because I've actually got a slot that's opened up on the 23rd. Do you want me to cover it? And he said, yes. So that's what we did. So it's on the channel now. This is a live playthrough of Yinzi Ming. The campaign has not launched yet. I think it's going live on the 17th of June. Don't quote me on that, but I think it might be the 17th of June. Hopefully, it's at some point in the next few weeks anyway. Now, a quick caveat, if you do go and watch that video, just so you know, we were still working off a prototype copy of the rulebook. And even though 90% of what's written in the new rulebook was clear and was accurate, there were a few parts that we were still uncertain about, and that came through in the playthrough video. However, saying that, you will get a good idea of how it plays from that video. Because it was a sponsored video, I'm going to be very light with my opinions on the game. What I will tell you is all three of us did enjoy the game. It definitely has a learning curve. We were all happy that we'd played a practice game in the afternoon because our practice game in the afternoon was a mess. Like, Pete on round one had no food to feed any of his people and lost a whole bazillion points. We learnt a lot, even from just playing half a game in the afternoon, but it does a lot of things very clever. The way that the player interaction works in the game is actually quite interesting because essentially what you're doing is you are sending farmers off into various fields or peasants off into the fields to farm various crops. But also, as well as that, you are creating workshops and you are going to be sending peasants to the workshops to produce goods. Those goods can be used to load onto a caravanserai, or they can be used to ship export off to ports, which can get you other points for trading with other nations. It's basically set at the time of great economic growth in China. And the way that the workshops work is that the workshops come in the player colours, but they're not necessarily the people who own them. So me, for example, as the blue player, I could own the green player's workshop. Well, it's not the green player's workshop, it's a green workshop, but I own it. Now, what that means is because it's a green workshop, only green peasants can work in there, so only the peasants of the other player can work in there, but it's my workshop. So they work for me and they produce goods for me. So that's quite interesting. But also you can pay other people to use their workshops. And if the game didn't have that rule, I just don't think it would work. So essentially you look at the ships and you think, okay, well there's a boat there that's about to set sail for Portugal and it wants some silk. Well, if you don't have a silk workshop, you can't produce the silk. Well, you can, because, oh, look, there, Pete's got a silk workshop, so I'm going to pay Pete. I'm going to pay Pete. I'm going to make use of his workshop. Oh, but it's a yellow workshop. That's Mark, so I'm going to use Mark's peasants to work in Pete's workshop, but I'm going to get the good. And that's my silk that I've produced by basically borrowing. It's just really good. The way that bit works is really clever. Overall, you are looking at a medium to heavy, tinting just slightly on the heavy side of things, but probably medium to heavy, good, solid Euro game where, unlike a lot of other games, turns can be quite quick. Actual turns in this game are not quite micro turns, but they are very fast-paced turns where you are like, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and that goes there, and I'm going to do that, and that's done. No chaining of actions or anything like that. Yeah, it just plays really smoothly once you get used to it. But that's on the channel. If you want to check it out, it was a live playthrough from May the 23rd. Now, what do you do when you've had a really long day of playing games? Now, I know playing games is a fun activity. I am very fortunate that playing games is my job. But I got up that early that Friday morning. I had a whole load of admin to do. Then I had to spend as much time as I could learning Yinzi Ming, ready for Pete and Mark to come round. Then we had a practice game in the afternoon. Then we had a full game in the evening. By the end of the day, I was absolutely exhausted. I mean, for me, that was like a 12-hour, working day, 12 or 13 hours. And yeah, sure, it was playing games, but it's quite hard running a live stream and learning so many games all the time. So I was absolutely exhausted. So Pete headed off home, and me and Mark went downstairs to play Vantage. Now, Vantage is the new game from Jamie Stegmaier, which is coming out this summer. I am very lucky and very fortunate to have been sent an early copy of the game. And the reason for that is I am going to be doing a playthrough video on the 20th of June, live stream on the 20th of June. Set your calendar reminders. I've been really excited about this game ever since I first heard about it. It is a 1 to 6 player cooperative open world exploration adventure game, but it's not a campaign game. That's the twist. You would expect that this is a campaign game. It's not. It is a series of self-contained games, each of which will last between 2 and 3 hours, where you crash land in one of 126 different locations on a planet. You get given one of 21 different missions, and off you go. The world is there for you to explore. People have compared it to Seventh Continent. Yeah. I'm kind of not seeing that much, but I get it. There is a world, there are locations, and those locations are connected together, but you do not build up a map. You don't place a map in the center of the table. What happens is, and this is the reason why it's called Vantage, each player will have a landscape-sized tarot card, or a landscape-formatted tarot card, and they'll have it in front of them on a stand so that only they can see it. And that is representing what they can see from their vantage point. And they can describe anything on that card to the other players. They can read anything out, but they can't show the card to other players. And you'll be like, okay, well, I'm on a beach. Over the other side, it's probably a lake or a river or something like that, but I can see a cave. And there's some kind of glowing stone that's near me. And here's the various options that I can do. And at most of the locations you visit, you can try to take something, you can look at something, you can interact with something, you can duel with something. You've got all of these different options that you can do. And then what happens is you choose which one of those options you want to do, or do you want to leave the location and go somewhere else? And then another player will look up something in a book, give you a choice, and then you'll roll some dice and you'll move on. Yeah, it's... all credit to Jamie. He's done something, again, which is very different. It isn't a cozy game like Mythwind is, because in this game you have 3 attributes. You have your health, you have your time, and you have your morale. And if any of those markers from any of the players goes to 0, it's kind of like the end of the mission and you failed. Kind of. I won't spoil it too much, but I will be doing a video live on the 20th. Now, I am actually going to be doing some videos for this game before the 20th. I've already filmed an unboxing video, but there is an embargo on video content for this game, so I won't be publishing them until nearer the time. My plan is that my unboxing video will go live on the 20th, which is when the embargo lifts. For me anyway, Jamie has told me that I can do it on the 20th. And then that evening, Mark and Sally are coming round and we're going to be playing Vantage. My solo playthroughs, which I will be recording over the next couple of weeks, they will be made available to my Patreon supporters, but not before the 20th. So if you are one of my Patreon supporters, then you will have access to some additional Vantage playthroughs, which is essentially me learning how to play the game and coming up with a series of questions for Jamie, which I will get answered before we do the actual full live playthrough. Okay, the last game I want to talk about, and this was played yesterday afternoon on Tabletop Simulator, and it's what all of these pieces are for here. This is Colosseum. And I'm actually going to be playing it tonight. So remember, this video is being recorded on Tuesday. So tonight, I'm going to be doing a 4-player playthrough of Colosseum. This video isn't going live until tomorrow, so it will have already happened. But that playthrough is not being made public. And the reason for that is it's a bit too soon, because they are going to be launching a crowdfunding campaign for the new version of Colosseum in a couple of weeks' time. And my video, it will be live tonight for Patreon supporters, but for everybody else, I'm probably going to take the video down and re-upload it later. It will be made available for everybody else probably 4 or 5 days before the actual campaign is live. And again, that's a sponsored video for Colosseum. I'm a fan of the original game. I was also a fan of when Tasty Minstrel Games redid it, although I will be honest, I didn't like the artwork and the whole look and feel of the Tasty Minstrel Games version. I can say that now because they don't exist as a company anymore, but the new version is Fantasia Games. Fantasia Games have just won an award for the best production of a game for Unconscious Mind of last year. They do phenomenally good production values of their games. The artwork is a combination of the Miko and Sir Ian O'Toole, and it looks great. That's going to be happening tonight. Physical game of Colosseum being played tonight. Very excited about that. Okay, let's move on to all of the games that I've been playing on Board Game Arena or various other online platforms over the last month. I've had a couple of games of Spellbook. Now, Spellbook is a game which I've spoken about before. It's a game which came out, went under the radar. A lot of people didn't like it. I actually quite like it. There's something about this game. I don't know what it is, but I actually do like this game. The last game that I finished of it, though, I warned the other people. So I played a game of it on Board Game Arena with Willem and Stevie, and I went with a very, very unusual, slightly obscure strategy where I was basically storing 2 tiles every turn on my dial player board thing. And the end of the game is when one player manages to fill up their board. And it isn't that player who wins, you still add up the points, but the more things you've put on your player board, the more points you get. So I got this combination of things right from the start of the game, and I said to myself, right, I'm going to try something here. I'm going to try this really weird strategy. And I apologised to the other 2 players because I said, look, this is not going to give you a good idea of how the game plays, right? The whole game is generating this materia, learning spells, and then learning a few different spells over the course of the game, and then using those spells to try and give you advantages. I learned 1 spell the entire game, and that spell allowed me to store 2 things a turn instead of 1, but only if one of them managed to match a particular magic symbol. And I spent the whole game drawing 2 tiles out of the bag, and luckily, every single turn I drew 1 which matched the symbol that I needed. So I stored the other one and stored that one. I literally spent the last 10 turns of the game, or the last 8 turns of the game, draw 2 tiles, store 2 tiles. Your go. My go. Draw 2 tiles, store 2 tiles. Your go. My go. Did that. And then the game ended, and I did manage to win. So I'm playing again now, and I've said, look, I'm not going to do that. In fact, I don't think you could choose to do that. I was very lucky for it to work. Anyway, that's Spellbook. It's on Board Game Arena. I really like it, but I can understand a lot of people don't. The other game which I noticed is on Board Game Arena is Welcome to the Moon. And I got up early one day and I saw it and I thought, Welcome to. I remember playing that. It was okay. Let's have a look at Welcome to the Moon. So I played a solo game of it on Board Game Arena without reading the rules. I literally just spent half an hour pretty much randomly clicking. The only rule that I remembered about the game is that you've got to put the numbers in sequence. And then I went into it. I won that game, but I don't have any idea what I was doing. So I can't really comment on whether it's a good game or not, but let me know. Have you played Welcome to the Moon? Is it good? Is it worth me going back and actually reading the rules and playing it again? The other thing that we've been playing on Board Game Arena, and this is all part of the current tournament that is being run as part of my Patreon supporters. So again, big thank you to Brett for organising this, but we are running, we always run a series of BGA tournaments as part of the Gaming Rules Community Slack channel. So if you are one of my supporters and you are on the Slack channel, we do run these tournaments regularly, and the one that I'm in at the moment is for Wingspan. I just can't seem to get Wingspan to work for me. There's not a problem with the game, I don't think. I'm just not very good at it. I don't know. I just don't seem to be able to do as well as other people do in the game. And I think I'm at the stage with Wingspan. And I know it's a very popular game. Some people don't like it, but a lot of people do. And I think I'm at the stage with Wingspan where I'm seeing why some people don't like it. For example, you play a game, you look at the 4 scoring tiles and you're like, right, okay, so the first scoring tile is for birds in the green habitat. Right, the second scoring tile is for eggs with birds of a particular nest. Right, the third scoring tile is for this, and the fourth one is for this. Right, here's the cards that you've been dealt, and here's your random scoring cards. And you look at them and you go, oh, well, this is good because I've got a scoring card for this, and there's also a scoring card for that, which matches this, and I've also got 2 birds that meet both this condition and that condition. Great. Or you could look at all of your starting stuff and go, yeah, none of this matches whatsoever. And that's where I am with the game at the moment. And I'm curious to know what other people think, because I can see people who've played it 3 or 4 times like me is looking at this game and thinking, if you don't get the combos, what can you do? But I think there's more to it, and I just haven't seen that yet. I don't know. Let me know what you think. So, next up, Puerto Rico. Played a game of Puerto Rico on Board Game Arena. It was well, I feel bad. I won the game easily. I've got a lot of experience with Puerto Rico. I've probably played it about 350 times. And, yeah, I mean, I'm proud of that score that I got in that game. But it's very rare that games end through victory points. Most games, like 9 out of 10 games of Puerto Rico, end because the colonist runs out and you don't have enough to resupply the boat, whatever. Yeah, this game went down to victory points running out. And I was doing quite a severe shipping strategy. And I got 3 of the large buildings because I had a coffee sale thing going that was working really well. So I was generating loads of money. And also I was shipping a lot. So yeah, that game, Puerto Rico, that might be the high score I've ever got in any game of Puerto Rico. Lost Ruins of Arnak, also played a game of that on Board Game Arena. Now, going back to what I said earlier on about Concordia, where I said that I want to be better at Concordia. I'm the same with Lost Ruins of Arnak. I've played Lost Ruins of Arnak quite a lot, and I've played it quite a lot on Board Game Arena, and I'm okay at the game. But I know people, Rick and other people, who are really, really good at the game, who will get 90 points or possibly even 100 points. And they'll easily get to the top of the temple with their magnifying glass and most of the way up with their book. And they'll be taking the temple tiles at the top. And I'm like, okay, I'm not where some people are with their first game, where they hardly do anything. I'm at the sort of medium level of Lost Ruins of Arnak, where I can play the game and I can do all right, but there's no way I can do as well as some of the other people do. Until that game. And that game, that was, again, similar to that game of Puerto Rico, that was probably my best game of Lost Ruins of Arnak that I've ever had. I got my magnifying glass to the top, I got my book as far as it could, I bought 2 of the temple tiles, I just did everything. And I'm like, how did I achieve all of this? The only thing that I actually did that was different from the way I normally play is I took a lot more of the fear cards. I was taking actions in the game and I was going to places that were giving me the fear cards. Now, I ended the game with about 3 or 4 of them, which is not ideal, and my deck was really fat, but I did really well in terms of points. So maybe maybe that's the trick. I don't know. I need to. I mean, Lost Ruins of Anarchy is a fantastic game. Absolutely love the game. I think it's brilliant. So BGA implementation is really good. It just doesn't have any of the expansions. Also, as I mentioned right at the start of this video, I did play a couple of games of White Castle on Board Game Arena as well. Again, it doesn't have the expansion in there, but it's a very good implementation of White Castle. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of games that I've been played is, in the last month, I've played lots and lots and lots of the Pathfinder Adventures digital card game. Now, many of my regular followers will know that I've had a hate-stroke-love relationship with the Pathfinder adventure card game, and ever since the first edition came out. And I love the second edition of the game. And heads up, me, Derek, and Paul are getting together the start of my birthday week, and we are going to carry on our campaign that we started last July. Love the game, but the digital adaptation of the game, which is a direct digital adaptation of the game, it's not like a completely different game. It's based on the first edition rules. Now, having gone through a phase where I really hated the first edition rules and loved the second edition rules, having to go back and play the Pathfinder Adventure game in digital version is like, oh, I'm having to go back to the first edition rules. Oh, but I don't like that, and I don't like that. But I have no other choice. I cannot play the second edition of the game in digital format, and I've got the digital app, and there's loads of content in there. So I've been playing it a lot, both on the computer and on the iPad, and I've done some bonus live streams for my Patreon supporters with it. So I'm really enjoying that at the moment. One thing that's driving me to play it more is that I have 2 full campaigns for the Pathfinder Adventures digital game. I have the Rise of the Rune Lords campaign, which is 6 adventures. Each adventure is 5 scenarios. And then I've got the Rise of the Goblins campaign, which is, again, I think it's 6 adventures, 5 scenarios in each. I've never got to the end of either of those. And I've decided, right, I want to do these. I've added both of them to my bucket list, and I just want to do them. And the only way I'm going to get them done is by investing the time in playing them. Thankfully, I am really enjoying it. So let's talk about what is coming soon to the channel over the next few weeks. Well, over the next month, there's going to be 2 more Primal playthroughs. So we're going to be fighting, I don't know what we're going to be fighting. The vote is currently on for whatever we're going to be fighting a week on Tuesday. I've also, the week after UK Games Expo, I've got Kinfire Chronicles and Kinfire Delve. Now, I don't know much about these games yet, other than when I got the opportunity to cover them on the channel. These are going to be sponsored playthrough videos, sponsored by Incredible Dream, who is the publisher of these games. I polled my Patreon supporters and I said, I've got the opportunity to cover these games on the channel. What do you think? Everybody went, yes. These games seem to be so well respected and so well liked, and I've had a quick look at them, and I'm very excited about them. But with all of everything else that I've had going on this month, I haven't actually delved into reading the rulebook for them yet, but I will be doing that soon, because I'm going to be doing playthroughs of them the week after Expo. Also, there may be, and I can't say for sure, but there may be a special Captain's Chair video coming up at some point in June. Watch this space. Other things that I'm going to be covering in June. The next Nucleum expansion. Yes, there's going to be another Nucleum expansion, but don't worry, this is just 8 new experiments. It isn't a new map, it isn't any extra politics, shenanigans or anything like that. It is just going to be 8 new experiments, but I've got that. I think it's over there. Yep, it's over there, and we're going to be doing a playthrough of that on the 13th of June, on the Friday evening. Then, as mentioned earlier on the 20th of June, I'm going to be covering Vantage. That's going to be a live playthrough as well. I'm also going to be giving a look at the King Domino digital version. So King Domino, or King Domino, if you want to pronounce it that way, that's getting a digital version, and I've agreed that I'm going to do a short playthrough video of that to show that off. What else have we got coming up in June? Oh, Transgalactica. Yes, I've now got a date when I'm going to be doing Transgalactica. It's not going to be a sponsored playthrough, so I basically had to find a particular time in the month where a couple of local players are free in the afternoon, because I don't have any time in the evenings, and that's going to be happening near the end of the month. And then at the very end of the month is a game that I can't even talk about yet. There's a game that I'm going to be covering. It's a new game from Board and Dice that hasn't yet been announced. Now, I know what it is, and I'm going to be covering it on the channel live at the end of June. But I can't tell anybody what it is yet. It's going to be revealed just after UK Games Expo. Now, the funny thing is, I'm actually going to be picking up my physical copy of this game at UK Games Expo. Board and Dice are going to give it to me in like, a sealed box, and I can't even get it out. I can't show it to anybody because it is currently top secret. But yeah, I'm going to be covering that at the end of June. Right, next up, let's give you a Patreon update. Well, what can I say? I obviously did something right this month, as for the first time since January, Patreon support has actually gone up. So for those people who haven't seen the previous 5 months video logs, since January, Patreon support has been gradually dropping. Now, that's not to say we don't get new people every month. We do, but over the last 5 months, we've had more people leaving than we've had joining. So Patreon support has been gradually dropping. This month, in the month of May, everything has turned around. And as of this morning, we now have 1,179 people, which I think is 17 up on last month. I think on screen now is an image of all of the new people that has joined in the last month, including the person who joined this morning. So yes, thank you very much for all of your support, and it's very, very much appreciated and helps me carrying on doing what I'm doing. And as always, a big thank you to all of my existing supporters who continue to believe in me and support what I do. Now, I want to mention my birthday week. So it's my birthday on the 3rd of July. I'm going to be 27 years old again this year. And last year, for my birthday week, I decided to take the week off work. And what I did is I live streamed games every day for 5 days. And you might think, well, hang on a minute, isn't that what you do for your job? And I'm like, yeah, that is what I do for my job. But what I did last year is none of that was paid for. So I took the week off work and I basically live streamed so many different games over the week of games that I really wanted to play that were never going to be sponsored playthroughs, but I really wanted to play them. That was the plan for last year, and it was fantastic and I loved it. It was a week off work, so I earned no money that week. And the only reason I'm able to do anything like that is because of the Patreon. Now, because we are close to 1,200 Patreon supporters, a couple of people have suggested to me that what I should do is some kind of like Patreon drive to try and get to 1,200 Patreon supporters. And if I do, then I can promise something special. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. And I've seen other channels doing these Patreon drives, and it generally does work for them. But the problem is I don't have any more time to do what I'm doing. I can't fit in anything extra. And then I thought about, well, hang on a minute. I'm having my birthday week coming up soon. Maybe I could do a thing where I say, right, let's have a push, let's have a Patreon drive, let's try and get to 1,200 Patreon supporters, and if I do, I'll take the week off work. And then I went, that sounds quite fake, because I'm going to do that anyway. So I didn't want to do that, and that's why I'm not doing it, because I didn't want it to come across as, like a fake stretch goal. It's like, well, if I'm going to do that anyway, then it seems silly. And actually, as much as I would want to take the entire week off work, I actually do have one sponsored playthrough booked in that week. It's only for a 45-minute two-player game, but it would be dishonest of me to say, I'm taking the week off work, I'm not doing any sponsored playthroughs, but I'm just going to sneak in this one. And there might be another one too. There might be a certain Mage Knight expansion which might get covered on my actual birthday. But we still need to work out the details with WizKids. If WizKids are able to get me a copy of the Apocalypse Dragon expansion early, straight from the factory, for my birthday, then I'm going to be playing that. But we'll see. I don't know. So, anyway, moving on. What else have we got to talk about? Charity payments. Let's talk about charities. Again, if you are new to the channel and you've never seen any of my video logs before, I donate all of my advertising revenue every month to charity. It's approximately £500. It does fluctuate a little bit depending on how many views we get, but roughly we donate £500 a month to a charity. And a few of you have sent me suggested charities, so thank you very much for that. I will tell you that the charity that we have chosen this month was Vicky's choice. Vicky found a charity, and I'm going to put some things on screen about it, but this is a charity that trains rats to find landmines and identify tuberculosis in people. Now, this is something which Vicky found out about, and she read about it, and she basically, she said, look, we should support these people, we should donate to them, they do really good work. And I'm like, yeah. And I mean, I said this last month and I got all emotional about it, and I'm trying not to do the same thing again. But it's really hard not to, because the world is, at times, not a nice place. And there are people in the world doing really good stuff. There are charities out there doing really, really good work. And the fact that we can help, the fact that thanks to your support, thanks to your Patreon support, which again, I say this every time, the people who support me on Patreon, the people who give me money every month for me to be able to do what I do, that means that I am able to donate my extra, all of the advertising revenue to charity. Because I don't need that extra money. It's as simple as that. The Patreon support, the financial support from the Patreon is so good that I don't need that £500 a month from advertising revenue. And it means we can give it to charity. And when we find charities that we look at and we can make a difference, we can send that money to them and that will help them. So yes, that's where the money is going this month. And again, thank you very much to everybody who watches this video, whether you're a Patreon supporter or not. Because if you're not a Patreon supporter and you have watched this video, that's an extra 0.001p for charity. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the figure is. But yes, thank you very much to all of you. And again, if you are one of my Patreon supporters and you have a charity that you want to suggest as one that we can donate to, please send it through to me. I am adding them all to a list, and then we will look at that list and we will choose a charity from there. Okay, just to wrap things up, one final quick thing. I'm on a painting surge at the moment. As you all know, what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to paint as many of the bosses from Primal the Awakening as I can, so that when we actually play the boss battle, we're playing with one of the painted miniatures. But there's a lot of them. There's like 20 odd, and we don't know what we're going to be fighting from one week to the next. When I get back from UK Games Expo, I will be looking at what the current results are for the poll, and then I will be painting the one that's got the most votes. But I've taken a bit of a break from painting the Primal miniatures, and I've gone back to Blackstone Fortress. So Blackstone Fortress is a game which I played once on Tabletop Simulator during lockdown and thoroughly enjoyed it. Last year, I think it was last year, I needed some retail therapy, and I actually bought myself a copy of Blackstone Fortress. I think it's the only game that I've actually bought myself for the last 2 years, because the job that I have, I get sent so many games, I don't have enough time to play all of those. There's no point me going out and buying my own games because I won't get time to play them. But I bought this one, and I've decided that I'm not going to play the game until I've painted the miniatures. And I had this rough plan around January that if I can get the miniatures painted by the first week in July, I can play it on my birthday week. That would be fantastic. That's not going to happen. I don't have enough time between now and the start of July to paint enough of the miniatures that I'd be happy with. But I decided I was going to make a start. So the 14 traitor guards, there's a picture on screen now of the current progress of the 14 traitor guards. Now, some of them are finished, like these two guys. These two are absolutely finished. I'm really happy with how these came out. The other ones are in... these are finished as well, actually. Yeah, these two are also finished. I haven't done anything fancy with the bases yet, but the rest of them are still in various stages of being worked on. Some of them probably only need about an hour's work left each. Some of them might need an hour or two. But in a week or so's time, all of these will be done. And that's a big chunk of the miniatures painted. I'm really happy with how these came out. I think my painting has definitely improved over time, and it isn't just contrast paints. It's not just, oh, well, Paul's using contrast paints now, so of course they're going to look better. I'm not using contrast paints in the way that contrast paints are intended to be used. I'm generally using them as a wash or a glaze or something like that. But either way, I'm very happy with how these have come out. It has to be said, though, that these miniatures are fantastic sculpts. The detail on them is absolutely incredible. They are really, really good miniatures. So yeah, that's the current progress with those, and there'll be more painted miniatures coming soon. So the last thing to mention is UK Games Expo. I'm going to be leaving I'm going to be leaving for UK Games Expo on Thursday. I will be helping set up the board and dice booth on Thursday afternoon, and I will be at the board and dice booth from 9 o'clock till probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock each day, where I will be demoing Trismegistus. Now, if you want to get a demo of Trismegistus, then come along to the booth sometime in the morning. What I will say is that my first demo slot each day at 9 o'clock has been booked up. I haven't taken any other bookings. Unlike last year, where my demos of Galactic Cruise were all booked, this year only the first one is booked. So if you want to get a demo of Trismegistus with me, then come along to the booth. Don't come along to the 9 o'clock one, but maybe come along at either 10:30 or 12, because they're going to be about an hour and a half long each. That's it. I can't promise that there will be a space, because loads of people might turn up. And there will be other people demoing Trismegistus there as well, other than me, so you don't have to get a demo from me, but that's where I'll be. Also, if you are a Patreon supporter of mine, I will be sending you out another message telling you where I'm going to be with regards to the meetups, because I'd like to meet you. And if you do decide to come along and say hello to me, please let me know who you are, because you might know me because you see my face all the time, but I might not know who you are. So if you are one of my Patreon supporters and you want to come and say hello at UK Games Expo, please do, and just let me know who you are, and that would be great. So that's it. That's the end of this video. I don't know how long it was. I'll find out when I get it into the editing room. But for now, I will say thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to all of you for your support. Thank you very much to all of you who support me on Patreon and help me carry on doing what I'm doing. And I'll see you next month. Cheers, everyone. Bye-byes.